our topic is the air wars and the life of like the typical life of a British fighter pilot. So,
Hello, I will be explaining about the general and major events of the Air War, the First World War, and technological developments in aircrafts. Since the first flight by the Warner Brothers in 1903, airplanes slowly came into consideration in the military sector, especially in the US, and was first used in war in the Italo-Turkish War in 1911, and the First Balkan War in 1912. However, airplanes were not involved on a large scale and didn't play a significant role in conflict until the First World War. Airplanes had two types of configurations in this time, the pusher type and the tractor type. The pusher type had the propeller on the back of the airplane, and which pushed the airplane forwards into the air, while the tractor airplane had the opposite. It had the propeller on the front of the plane and pulled the plane forwards into the air. Britain, likewise to Germany, saw aircraft's value mostly in reconnaissance work and scouting, which mostly involved taking aerial photographs and shooting down other observation balloons and other reconnaissance aircrafts of the enemy. Due to this, and that the planes had to be easy to fly, especially in 1914, they mostly focused on visibility and stability in their planes, resulting in large, slow-flying, stable pusher-type planes. Although the tractor-type planes performed better overall, the British deemed visibility more important than speed. Pusher planes would allow for optimal gun position, however, as there is no propeller obstructing the front.
Yeah.
The first dogfights consisted of pilots shooting with pistols, and then moved on to Lewis guns. Although as early as 1912, Britain was experimenting with machine gun carrying aircrafts. British firm Vickers did this and resulted in the creation of the Vickers Experimental Fighting Biplane 1. This was a pusher-type plane and had an optimal machine gun position, right on the front of the plane with no propeller obstructing it. This allowed the pilot to shoot by aiming the plane, and it could be reloaded and cleared in flight. However, this didn't perform as well as tractor types, as it was simply too slow. There were several attempts at making machine guns work with tractor types, but the propeller would obstruct the machine gun, resulting in propeller damage. So workarounds were tried by firing guns out of the arc of the propellers, but proved very difficult to aim in such weird spaces. Then, in 1915, the French attempted a way of firing machine guns from the front of a tractor plane. The Morin-Saulnier company designed a system of deflector blades, which were propeller blades with metal wedges designed to deflect the bullets that were shot through the propeller. Roland Garros tried the system in April 1915 and managed several kills, but was soon forced to land as a result of engine failure behind enemy lines. The engine failure was believed to have been due to repeated strain on his aircraft's crankshaft of the deflected bullets. Behind enemy lines, both Garros and his plane were captured by the Germans, who noticed the system on the plane. The army took the plane to the Fokker Company, ordered to copy the design. However, the design proved unsuitable with German ammunition, as the German bullets would still shoot through the propellers. For this, the Fokker Company came up with a machine gun that was synchronized with the propeller by using interrupted gear. With this new tech, they produced the Eindecker series of planes. This series of planes triggered a focus on fighter planes and gave the Germans a period of air superiority that was known as the Fokker Scourge or the Fokker Scare, which lasted from 1915 to April 1916. This shocked the formerly unchallenged reconnaissance planes of the Allies and revealed the vulnerability of these planes. The psychological effect of this exceeded the material. The Allied regained air superiority after forming French squadrons and the expansion of the RFs.
Thank you.
Okay, now on to the next part of the exhibition.
So I will be talking about the RFC, the RNAS, the RAF, and some of the famous aces that came out of the First World War from Britain. The RFC and the RNAS. Early military aviation was the responsibility of the Army, who established the RFC, the Royal Flying Corps, in 1912. The Naval Wing moved to the control of the Admiralty when the Royal Naval Air Service, the RNAS, was formed in 1914. The two organisations combined to create the independent Royal Air Force on the 1st of April 1918. Those who served in the RFC or RNAS and then moved to the RAF may have been recorded in more than one place. In World War I, the RNAS and the RFC merged together to form the RAF. There were concerns raised about the loss of specialised female workforce. This was due to the fact that before 1918, members of the WRNS, the Women's Royal Naval Service, and the WAAC, the Women's Army Auxiliary Corps, worked on stations that belonged to the RFC. Due to the raised concerns, a separate entirely female air service was created. The service was formed on the 1st of April 1918 and was named the Women's Royal Air Force, or the WRAF. One ace that particularly stood out to me was James McCudden. Major James McCudden joined the RFC aged 15 as a mechanic, rose from the ranks to become one of the most successful British aces with 57 victories and was awarded the Victoria Cross. He was killed on 9th of July 1918 in a fire accident. If you would like
It's
to...
after the war, no?
No, it was still during the war.
Still during the war?
Yeah. If you'd like to, you can come up and have a look.
Yeah. I'm afraid they all. Oh, this one, he survived at least. He
Yes,
survived.
so
This
did...
one, oh, 97.
Yes, so Lewis as well. Yeah, he survived to be 99
97.
years old.
Wow.
So.
Okay, that's serious.
Yeah. Yeah, he also wrote several books, including 3 biographies, although some of it is said to be factually incorrect because he wrote that he fought the Red Baron, which there is no record of him doing that.
Oh, okay.
So.
And did some of these fighters also went to the Second World War later on?
I'm unsure because the majority of them.
Yeah, but let's see, at least these two
No,
are.
I think they were tired or they were
Yeah.
too old to continue.
So now on to the recruitment. Men in the Navy, Army, and also just the civilians, so like farmers, as an example, were all enrolled into the, well, not all of them, as in like they can enroll. And for example, they can enroll at the age of 17, but they cannot be called in until the age of 18 because they required. And then means such as propaganda was used to then encourage the pilots to join the Air Force, such as propaganda posters like these, and also just the general the glorification of the Royal Air Force, or just the Air Forces in Britain was so, was really glorified as that you'll have a great life and they're superior and that they are the heroes of the war. And so that's what encouraged them to start, get recruited, training, and so on. And then for the training, around 15,000 aircrafts had like casualties. Of course, then the pilots would die with the aircraft. And then, so that was because of the more peculiar way of training. So there's then the normal, like the more luxurious way, like training method, which is where then there's dual training with the trainee and trainer. But that was, and the more common one was really where they were put with a instruction manual. They sit with the so they were put in the cockpit, and then they have to try to figure out how to fly the plane, and that's why they all at the beginning of the war in 1914, a pilot was sent to the front with around 4 to 5 hours of flying, which is quite little. While by 1918, pilots were sent to the front with around 35 flying hours, where they are expected to have 5 hours of flying in the front. In the early 1960s, the RFC began regulating training standards, and that is where the trainees have to gain around 15 hours of flight time before going to the front. And also because there was a constant increase in demand for pilots and fighter pilots in the front, so that which caused then a lack of resources in the actual training, so that caused there to be insufficient training and for the pilots. So then they weren't prepared for the war. So when they go to the front, that also increased the amount of casualties. For 1917, there was a spike in casualties, like flight related, because of the unpreparedness of these soldiers, of the pilots, and then which caused then the life expectancy of the pilot to be then around just a few weeks and just a few hours of flying. That is then, and then eventually training methods became more advanced, standardized, and so then the amount of casualties decreased, but of course, it's still quite high. But also when the Royal Air Force was formed, which we'll hear a bit further on the line, in 1918 they obtained approximately 100 training squadrons, 30 specialist schools, and eventually getting around 7,000 aircraft, which then helped standardize the training method, of course. And but before the actual going to the cockpit where they had to fly kind of part, before they had more steps, which is first they had a normal military training, which then puts them. It wasn't really for the actual training program, more to put you in the mindset of being in the military, being a soldier, being an airman. And then after that, they had a more theoretical test, which is then where they learned about like navigation and like wireless signaling using Morse code, map reading, and then communicating with their other pilots and so on. And then maybe have a simulation, which basically
Saw that.
yeah. So the simulation is then kind of to show how they train, which is then sitting with where you don't know how to fly, and then they have an instruction manual and they figure it out, and then you can try it after the
Is there a ratio of people who died because of lack of training and people who shot from the air?
The main thing is like very large portion of the people that were put in training, so a large portion of 15,000 all died even like when taking off because they don't know how to fly.
15,000.
Oh, it's kind of. So on to the next part.
I'm going to be talking about the life of pilots on land. So, considering that the first powered plane had only been flight approximately 15 years before the First World War in 1993, it was quite reasonable that many people had their doubts about the efficiency of aircrafts in the First World War. And a man called Ferdinand Foch, who was the French general and later on the Supreme Allied Commander, explicitly stated, "The airplane is useless for the purposes of war." And that's quite a strong opinion about that. Towards the beginning of the war, the British Air Force was lacking in power and sparse in numbers. The power was split between two groups, the Royal Naval Air Service and the Royal Flying Corps. The RNAS had about 90 planes, and the RFC had about 190, which may seem like a lot, but numbers don't exactly mean everything, and quantity is not the same as quality. Many of these planes were not airworthy, so they could not be used. It was mostly for show, mostly from past experiments, just not this was mostly because the technology was so new, only 15 years. They didn't know what to do with it. And obviously that required a lot of experimentation to improve, and consequently a lot of human life was lost because obviously it was new, they didn't know what to do, and they just had to try their best, but loss came from that. Now the importance of the Air Force was not entirely recognized until April 1st, 1918, when the RNAS and the RFC combined to create the Royal Air Force. This was a turning point in the British aviation as a war, because combining these two powers finally gave them enough power to create new aircraft, and gave them enough knowledge. On their own, they were just too very weak sources.
That's really
And together they had enough power to actually be significant, to actually do something which in the past they were not able to do. And this created quite a promising future for more victorious flights for pilots. Approximately in February 1918, if not earlier, fighter pilots have been nicknamed by the public as Knights of the Sky. Now, because of this, it's quite clear that the public's opinion had increased towards the beginning of the war. Everyone had their doubts about it, but towards the end of the war, they started to realize, oh, we can actually do something like this, especially after the combination of the two forces into the RAF. And the public opinion was mostly positive, especially since they recognized the bravery of becoming the pilot. And they realized that by making that choice, they basically guaranteed their death before the duration of becoming. It was only a few weeks, a few hours before. But it was a very great decision to the public, and it was very hard not to live up to it. Except a few people did not live up to it. They looked at the pilots as posh people. They looked at them as very rich, very fortunate, and especially people living in the trenches were very jealous of them. Because pilots, they received wooden huts, they received canteens, they had relaxing spaces, drinking spaces, gaming spaces, they had everything. They had a comfortable life. And especially compared to the trenches where you just live there with a bunch of other people as one large mass. And everyone was quite jealous of them, but when you take a look at the luxury they received, and then you also take a look at the short life expectancy, exactly, then you start to realize, oh, maybe it wasn't that great. Because maybe they had a comfortable lifestyle, but meanwhile, because of the short lifespan and all the pressure that was on them, obviously the mental strain was so huge, and most of the time their nights would be spent in bed worrying about their planes burning out and having nightmares instead of sleeping comfortably and being as privileged as others said they were.
Okay, so I'm going to talk to you a bit about the life in the commercial air. I'm trying to keep it short. First off, pilot in the early 2 years of the war, observation missions were